Hello and welcome. So this is my bicycle. Yeah, this is basically what I use to commute to and from work when I'm not getting a bus. Um, so um, yeah, and my commute is 11 miles each way. So 22, 23 miles give or take every single day, and so that's why I've put that on the back of it. Because there's a massive hill on the way back that lasts for like 2 miles, and I end up being knackered when I get back. So that's why I put this on the back of it. It's a bench grinder. So why a bench grinder? I saw this in Lidl for 30 quid, and it was like, the specifications are perfect. 250 watts, which is the maximum what you can have on any vehicle before it has to be classed as a motorbike or anything like that. License legislation, all that sort of business. And it also crucially had this gearbox which spins at around about the speed that I need it at, about 120 revolutions a minute. So that's basically the basis for my e-bike. It's all cable tied in place, because they're the strongest thing in the world. So what powers it? Well, for that, because I wanted to keep the budget down, it's got a lead acid battery, and I made the best of it. It's a 50 quid scooter battery, 240 watts or 20 amp power. Crucially, it's an AGM, so it's not going to spill everywhere if it falls over. And it's a deep cycle one, so that means I can use 70% of the power throughout 50 rather than the usual 50%, which is ideal. Of course, I couldn't just hook it straight into the bench grinder, so that's where the inverter comes in. A 300 watt one with all the usual with useful safety features like cuts off if it's overloaded, all lots of business, and beeps if it's low on power. And then it's all wired through a protest box, which is there I've wired it on the inside so that I've got a switch that's positioned here, which is a floor switch that you normally hook up to a lamp. But in this instance, it's the on-off switch from thingamajig, so I can turn it on and off whenever I need it. Basically, the tricky part then really was to connect it to the drive. So I bought this sprocket off an old kid's bike that was lying around not doing anything for years. There you go, there's the remnants of it. But the sprocket and the chain on it was still in pretty good nick, so I basically nicked it. Well, I asked for permission, Thank you, honey. I tried using friction to keep it in place, just with the bolts and this door stop, but that didn't really work. It kept on loosening itself and spinning uselessly, so I ended up having to drill a hole through the shaft, and then the Allen key, which goes into a groove that's in, a sprocket remover. And then some door stops to cover kept in place with a door stop. And then the hole kept in place with this is like homemade bearing out of like one of those bicycle light holders and some washers and ball bearings. And then a series of old bicycle tools and more washers and this bit of a derailleur, so it's nice and smooth and it's smoothish. And then it runs off the large sprocket, which I never really use because it's the gear one, but we're climbing up very steep hills. But it's all. And then this in the end, the metal bits that cage, for want of a better term, is basically. I took a pair of pliers to one of those oven grill things, one that we never used so I've acquired it for this, and it again cable ties, and bent it to suit, and it stops it from it keeps the chain in place. So is there anything else sort of missed? If I was to, if it wasn't for the hill, I probably would have bothered doing an e-bike in the first place. But one of those cheap kits from Asia, from Alibaba or what have you. For about 50 quid, and then a couple of batteries would do the trick. But this is, um, yeah, after a couple of months of trial and error, I finally got it working pretty reliably, although it rained the other day and it didn't like that, so it's more or less a fun hour fair weather bicycle. And that's, I believe, all the waffling to do with bicycle. Oh yeah, the plank of wood, just to what extra support. Now full support ever since it ate itself. It's not as strong as I thought it was. So if anybody else is going to thinking of doing their own DIY project, if you think something needs doing, do it. Don't just like assume that something that wasn't meant to do what it does will do it. So coming up to 6 minutes now. So thank you very much, guys. Bye.